Hi guys, it's Tony Robbins. You're listening to Habits and Hustle. Crush it.
On today's episode of Habits and Hustle, we have the infamous and famous Charles Koch. Charles Koch is a chairman of the board and CEO of Koch Industries, a position he has held since 1967. He is renowned for growing Koch Industries from a company worth $21 million in the early 1960s to one with revenues estimated as high as $110 billion by Forbes. He is one of the richest men in the world at number 11 and sometimes number 10 hovering. And his company by its revenue is larger than both Boeing and Disney combined. He has transformed the business into a diverse group of companies that employ nearly 130,000 people, making everything from Dixie cups to components in your cell phone. Charles credits the success of Koch Industries to applying proven principles of social and scientific progress, which led to the development and implementation of his market-based management, MBM, business philosophy. He describes MBM as its applications in two of his books, The Science of Success and Good Profit. Charles is now using those principles in philanthropy as a founder of Stand Together to tackle some of the biggest challenges in the U.S. Stand Together is partnering with thousands of social entrepreneurs to help them improve their effectiveness and scale at tackling poverty, improving education, and bringing justice to our criminal justice system, and much more. His new book is called Believe in People, and he's on the podcast today to discuss all of it. It was super interesting speaking with him, and I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed doing it. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. Today I wanted to, I'll do a proper intro later, but today we have Charles Koch and Brian Hooks, who wrote the book, Believe in People. And Charles, I think that you are kind of infamous for, I mean, you're the 11th richest human being in the world. I mean, if people don't know you, they should be Googling you right away.
If you believe that.
Well, even if it's a little bit off, still, you're more financially successful than the majority of us.
Let's put this way: I'm not broke at this point.
No, you're definitely not broke. Exactly. And so I think it's very interesting. I know there's a lot that there's controversy around some of the things that you are, around you a little bit. But what I really want to really focus on is just the fact that you've been able to build. I mean, Koch Industries is it's bigger, more successful than Disney, Boeing. I mean, there has to be some kind of thing that we can glean from that, right? So you took over from your father when, it was successful, but it wasn't even close to where it is today. And I really want to get to understand the principles and of how other people can kind of take that information and apply it to their own life. So that's why I'm so excited to speak to you.
Thank you. Well, we're excited to have you speak to us.
Good. And we're obviously going to speak a lot about your book. I think I really did enjoy it a lot. A lot of what you write about are things that I speak about on the podcast, and I actually tend to agree with. And let's start with the basics. I mean, you talk a lot in the book about the bottom up approach, about social entrepreneurs. Can we talk about, in the beginning, what was some of the things that you did, the bottom-up approach, and explain what that is, how you were able to kind of grow the business from what it was to what it was and to what it is today?
Well, it was central to that is, let me go back a little. After I finished college, I worked for a consulting firm in Boston, and I didn't know. I knew what I was good at. It was a very narrow range of things. And I was trying to find a way to develop it and apply it, my gift. And as you know, our philosophy is everyone has a gift. And the key in society and the key for all of us is to find our gift, but not only find our gift, find a way to develop it and apply it to create value for others. And that's the way we can succeed and feel good about ourselves and believe in ourselves. And so I was working for this consulting company, and I said, well, I got 3 degrees in engineering, but I was a lousy engineer, so that wasn't it. But the only job I could get was as an engineer with this consulting firm. But I worked my way around to different departments, and I got into management consulting and got to work on strategy and innovation. Wow, I was pretty good at that. And so I'm going to be an entrepreneur. So at MIT, they had all these spinoffs from professors and students, and I knew a bunch of them. So I was going to invest in one of those and go to work for them. In the meantime, my father called me, and he said, he called me several times. Finally, he called me and he said, son, as you know, my health is poor. I don't have long to live, and I'm not really able to run the business we have. We had sales of about 12 million there. So we've grown not only in sales, but other ways, 10,000 fold since then. So, I mean, that's interesting. How'd you do it? I know I'm a long way to get to that. But
I want to do it.
Okay. So he said, either you come back to run the company or I'm going to sell it. And he turned things over to me right away. He'd been real tough on me growing up, made me work all the time and a lot of discipline and stuff. And I didn't want that. But once he promised that, he would turn it over to me. I said, okay. And he said, you already own an interest in the company. So, okay, this is as good an entrepreneurial offer as I'm going to get.
Yeah, exactly.
So I came back and I was able to make have some success in improving it because it was in such bad shape, as he said. But I didn't feel good about myself. I was missing something. I mean, it says one of my mentors, Abraham Maslow, put it, if you are not fully developing your capacities and realizing your potential, you may be successful externally, but you will be deeply unhappy. And that was it. I didn't believe in myself. I wasn't happy. So I said, I got to find something that will make me feel good about myself and feel I'm really able to contribute. So I started searching for what I call the principles of human progress. And there are a lot of them. We use over 100 of these now in the company and in Stand Together. And we don't obviously have time to go through all these. But I started applying those and they worked.
Yeah.
They helped me. They worked in the company. And so I said, well, I'll apply them in all aspects of my life. So I apply them in raising our children, applied them in my philanthropic work, and then we apply them in Stand Together, our philanthropic community, applied them in everything. And boy, so I've dedicated my life to discovering more of these principles and concepts and apply them. And how do we better apply it every day? That's what I focus on. And then because I'm only good at that narrow range of concepts, then I surround myself with people who are good, who are all the other things that need to be done that I'm not good at, because I learned the hard way when I didn't. And I tried to do everything. I failed. So I got good feedback.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I think there's a lot of through lines in your book that I think that are very simple for people to understand. Number one, that your empowerment, you empower your people, or people, you believe in basically empowering people to find who they are, what they're good at, what their talents are, and to self-actualize, and to me, I mean, that really resonated. I thought that was something that I've always believed in. And I guess my question to you is, I know that you learned that from, what was that guy's name? Maslow, who did
Abraham Maslow.
Maslow.
Yeah.
How did you come about him? Like, were you already kind of searching for something, and you kind of you got that early on, and then you just, like you said, started to apply it? How do people, in your opinion, begin that process of finding what their talents are? How to self-actualize? What is the process?
Well, it requires effort, time, and trial and error.
Yeah.
And so I said, I've got to build a network of people who will expose me to different ideas of all kinds, not one ideology, but all across the board, all different disciplines. And then as they did, and they'd say, okay, here's what you're looking for. Here, read this book or meet this professor. And so I built this network. And so I was constantly exposed. I was deluged with ideas. And I got in these book clubs and searching for these and meeting other people who had different ideas. So that's it, trial and error. And then I'd find some. And then I studied history. Okay, what ideas worked in history? What transformed people? What transformed people's lives and enabled them to become social entrepreneurs? And then when there were enough of them, how did they change society? So it enabled more and more people to realize their potential, to self-actualize.
Yeah.
And so as I read that, okay, I figured, I could see that we needed in our businesses to focus on becoming the preferred partner to everyone, every organization that was important with. That would be our customers, our employees, our suppliers, our communities, and society as a whole. Why do we need to do that? Because if people who are important to you in organization don't want you to succeed, they aren't going to support you.
Yeah.
And you want everybody to help you. And the only way you're going to get that is if you're dedicated to helping them.
Yeah. No, I think that's very true. I mean, you talk about that, like how you empower your like the number one thing that you tell the supervisor's number one job is to empower the employees underneath them.
Absolutely. And to help them self-actualize. And so
right.
What does that involve? It involves them helping them find their gift, what they're good at, and they'll be passionate about.
Yeah.
And then get them in a role that uses that, not stick people in a role that they're no good at. I mean, the example I use with our people, look, our supervisors is, let's say I was hired by an opera company to be business manager. And then the tenor got sick and they say, okay, Chucky, you got to sing tenor now. We would be bankrupt. So that's what we do. And that's what businesses do to people. And
100%.
then we give them reviews. You're no good at this. You got to improve. Well, you could give me feedback on singing till I was a grease spot on the floor. We would still go bankrupt. And so what we look at, if somebody's trying hard and they're not succeeding, okay, we say it's our fault. We have you in the wrong role. And if we get in a business and customers aren't buying for us and we're not profitable, that's not the customer's fault. We're not a victim. We didn't develop the capabilities to create superior value for our customers. So we got to either build those capabilities or we got to find different kinds of customers and have different products and services that we can create superior value for our constituencies.
We tell the stories in the book of a whole lot of different people that have gone through this process. When Charles talks about self-actualization and all of that, it can sound daunting. But one of the things that we try to stress is it's a process, right? And you're never done, but you can continually become more and more self-actualized. And so how do people do it? Well, we often make the mistake that we've got to stop what we're doing and all of a sudden find something brand new. But I think one of the points that we've learned from a lot of the people that we've worked with is that, you start with what's close to you, and then you go on this discovery process, and you build sort of your self-actualization through a realization of your skills over time.
No, I mean, that part really hit home for me. That's why I was really excited to talk to you guys, because I talk about this all the time. I think that, and you said something about this in the book too, about like some other person that you, another psychologist, but how not everybody's smart, or everyone's, you're not smart or stupid.
Yeah, Howard Gardner.
Right.
His multiple intelligence theory.
Yes.
That there are all these independent intelligences, and none of us are good at all of them.
Exactly.
I was, out of the 8 he has, I think there are many more than that. There are many. So I was only good at part of one of the 8. And so that's, my whole life is focused on that.
And you've done pretty well.
Yeah, no, that works. When you focus on what you're really good at, and you can tell I'm passionate about it, and I love what I'm doing, and I'm turned on every day. I want to use my abilities to contribute. And part of that is finding the people to partner with me who are good at all the other things that we need to do to succeed and contribute.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the crux of like what I talk about all the time, because if you, like you're saying, you're trying to fit like a square peg into a round hole, you're going to constantly, it like wears on you and your confidence. But that's why that part really resonates. It's like, you have to kind of no one's going to be smart at everything. Like, I know my lane, and I stay in my lane, and then I find other people to basically balance out what I'm bad at. Right. And that's a point that I think people need to kind of hear over and over again. Right. And that's why I love this part of it, the whole self-actualization, and also the empowerment part, because when people feel like they're actually making a difference, or they're really being listened to and involved, it makes them want to be better and be involved, versus being just another cog in the wheel that no one cares about.
Absolutely. And the key here is you've got to find both what you're good at and what you're not good at. That's
Absolutely.
just as important, because people are really good at something. Let's say you're a great actor. So you think, because I'm a great actor and I can act all these parts of people who do all these things, well, I can go do all these things. So they become experts in their mind on all these other things.
Right.
Which
absolutely.
And we all fall into that. So the other part of this is challenge, and that's one of our principles of human progress from Karl Popper, the prominent philosopher of science, which is science as falsification. That is, whatever theory in science, the proper method in science is whatever theory you come up with. The first thing it's got to be testable, and then you need to find challenges. You've got to work on finding the flaws and find other people who will show the flaws in it. So that's what I do. And because I know I get a lot of ideas, and some of them are pretty good and some of them are pretty lousy. And boy, I don't want to just charge off and have us doing that and have this massive failure. So right. I say, okay, what are the key things that need to work to make this acquisition, this strategy, whatever, successful? Who will really challenge me on that? And who has insights in that? So I get 4, 5, 6 people together,
right? And
we have a brainstorming. And I said, challenge me, show me what's wrong with it, with my idea. And every time we come up with a better idea than I started with.
Right. So you don't surround yourself. Yeah, no, because you don't surround yourself with people who are just yes men, who just agree with you. That doesn't really get very far, right? Like, you need to be, so you have that wherewithal. I mean, which I think also, and you talk about this a lot too, is like the education system, right? We're putting everyone through the same funnel.
Yeah.
When, and this, I see it all the time. I have two small kids, and, even like friends of mine, or when I was going through the school system, if you're not doing it the way that, if you're not good at the way that how it works, you're deemed stupid, or you have a learning disability. And that also, like, mentally plays on somebody's, ability to self-actualize, because you don't feel that you don't feel like you can, because but you can't do that one-dimensional type of learning.
You don't believe in yourself, right? Because you've never you had the chance to really discover who you are and what you're good at. You brought it up, the one-dimensional schooling, which is unfortunately what most of the kids today have to go through.
Yeah.
Public or private schools, doesn't matter. Most of them are just this one-dimensional, one-size-fits-all.
Right.
But you look at it from a three-dimensional perspective, right? You spend a lot of time helping kids to go through this discovery process. Then they get to find out, hey, you know what? I'm not good at a lot of things, and that's okay. But I am good at some things.
Right. Exactly.
They start to get that belief in themselves. And that's kind of the first step to a future. So, there's a lot more that we can be doing to improve the ability of kids to have that kind of an experience of three-dimensional education.
And we have a lot of program. As it is in the book, I started this program called Youth Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And in one school in a tough neighborhood here in Wichita, and that was the idea. We would, so kids were attracted to it that had thought everything was hopeless. They were looking for something different. And they heard, well, we can maybe get some money in this class. And so, because what we do, okay, you prepare a business plan. We'll help you talk through what you're good at and what not, and what products or services you might have. And they go through that, and then the ones that come up with a good business, good plan, and they seem like it might work, we give them some little seed capital, a few $100s to go start it, and then help mentor them and get local entrepreneurs to help mentor them. And it transformed their lives. Many of these kids are failing everything, and they start making straight A's because they see a purpose in it. And now some of them are entrepreneurs, and they get scholarships to college or trade school or whatever fits them. It is so exciting to see.
No, that's amazing. I wanted to talk to you about the Youth Entrepreneur Program, and also the narrative for the whole individualized education.
Yeah.
So how are you doing it? And how do people, how do people, if they're not in Wichita or whatever, how are they going to be able to be involved in it or get more? How are they going to do it? Can you talk about that whole program a little bit more in depth?
We're in, excuse me for talking over you, but we're in 43 states now, because as people see what it's done, they say, I want that in my community. Okay, if you'll set it up so they have mentors, it's not just classroom. This is life's work kind of thing. So they need outside mentors. And so, and then we put it on the internet now. We have like 60,000 users now around the country, and some of them could be homeschooling, but teachers. And so our main focus is on the teachers. And these teachers, when they see the difference in this class or this program and the other things they're teaching, it transforms them. Wow.
Yeah.
I can really accomplish something. I can now help these kids. And so we empower the teachers. This is bottom up,
right? So
they can empower the kids.
Absolutely.
The cool thing about Youth Entrepreneurs is it's one of several hundred of these opportunities for, as you said, the individualized education. We've got a project with the Walton Family Foundation where we're helping to support 600 new projects that'll be bottom up. Most of them will come from teachers who have figured out just a better way to teach in their class, but they need a little bit of capital to see whether or not they can expand the program. And they run the gamut. They're some of what will be kind of familiar to people, especially in this COVID world where so many of our kids are having to learn remotely. There'll be new digital projects, but some of them are really hands-on. there's a project that we supported called Uncommon Construction. It's this brilliant project. Never would have thought of it if you had sort of said, hey, let's start a program like this. But it's a bottom-up solution based on what one of these teachers figured was working for him and his kids. He teaches a class on construction sites. And so it's for kids, who've sitting in a classroom for 8 hours a day just really doesn't work for them. But they're smart. They just haven't been able to get turned on to the right way to learn. Yeah. And so he invites them into a program where they all build a house together. And what do they learn? They learn how to get along with each other, right? How to solve problems. Because when you're doing construction, it doesn't ever go as planned.
Yeah.
They learn geometry, yes. Right? They learn, well, what do you do when you don't have power? And you had planned today to, use all your power tools. How do you make sure you don't waste the time? So they're developing all of these life skills as well as the basics, the reading, the writing, and the math that they would otherwise probably not have gotten if they were sitting in a classroom all day. Not right for everybody, but it could be right for a whole lot of kids that otherwise wouldn't have that opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. So what age can you start this at? Like what age is when someone can actually start doing this?
Doing the uncommon construction?
No, not that. This overall, like the whole youth entrepreneur, like at what age do people start being able to do that? Because I think this is like a great, again, like I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to be polite, but when I was reading the book, there were so many things about it. I was like, this makes so much sense. It's exactly what I think. Like more people who don't know should know about these things.
Well, it all comes back to this idea that Charles mentioned, right? You start with this deep belief in people. Everybody has a gift. And so then if it's our job as a society to try to empower them to realize that gift, then the answer to your question is, when can you start? Start right now, right? Start whenever. I mean, kids from birth, basically, right? This is our job.
What programs do we have that reach the youngest?
Yes, exactly.
And what would you say?
Well, I think what we've found in recent years is actually the prior to kindergarten is a really, really important time in kids' lives. But you've got to, and so we haven't done a whole lot there, but that's an area that we're moving into. What, as I understand it, what you do there in terms of really nurturing kids to begin to realize who they are, is you make sure that they feel loved, right? You make sure that they've got the kind of personal interaction that they can start to develop relationships with adults. They can start to model behavior, that sort of thing. And there are certainly programs that help families to do that, or help kids who don't have a traditional family to be able to do that. But as kids develop at each stage, there's a program that's tailored to what's appropriate to them that can really help them to begin to realize things. So we start in basically in K through 12. But there's a lot of opportunity to apply these ideas before that as well. And it's an area that we're getting into.
Now, is this part of the Stand Together Foundation too? Like if someone goes there, they can find this type of programming and they can look into it?
That's right. Yes.
All of these.
Stand Together.
Yeah.
That's right.
All of it. So then what is Narrative 4? Can you talk about that a little bit? I saw that in the book too.
Yeah, Narrative 4 is it's one of my favorite programs. It's just this awesome experience. If anybody gets a chance to go and actually participate, it's like life-changing. So Narrative 4 was started by really effective storytellers, fiction writers. A guy named Colin McCann, an Irish author, started it and surrounded himself with other people. And the whole idea is that we need to develop empathy between people who don't otherwise don't feel like you have a lot in common. And so what Colin and the team do is they organize what they call story exchanges. And so you come into a room, you sit down next to somebody who you don't feel like you've got anything in common with, and you spend some real time together, a few hours at least. And you tell each other a story that's really meaningful to your life. You go into detail. And then the other person does the same thing. And then you get back into the group, say 20, 25 people, and you've got to tell that other person's story as if it were your own. Tell them in the first person.
Oh,
and what it does after you've had to basically live, in that person's shoes and really internalize their experience, even by just articulating it, you develop a lot more empathy for somebody that when you walked in the room, you figured, well, what do I have in common with this person? But the really cool thing about the program, what I didn't expect when I saw it, is it doesn't just help you to develop empathy. It helps the person whose story you're telling to develop confidence. because they hear somebody else telling their story.
Yes.
And they think, wow, that's a great story. Wait a minute, that's my story.
Right.
I believe in myself more. And when we do this, we support programs that do this in, say, some of the poorest high schools in the country. And so sometimes when those kids hear that other kid tell their story, it's the first time that they felt important, right? And it's this building block towards really helping them to believe in themselves and giving them the confidence to start to believe in other people.
No, I think that's amazing. And you run Stand Together, correct? Like you're the.
That's right.
I'm the founder, but I'm kind of just in the philosophy department.
We've been working together for about 20 years on this sort of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think I always say that way you do one thing in life is how you typically do everything. And I love how you took all these principles that you've figured out, with business, and you're now just applying them to your philanthropy, your personal life. I mean,
right.
I want to talk more about these principles, like what you talk about, virtuous cycles of mutual benefit. Now, we talk. What do you say? What do you mean by that? Is that a principle, or is that just? Well, you can talk.
Well, that's a principle that I came up with.
I know you did. Yes.
I mean, and that's really taking these steps that we talk about for the individual to self-actualize.
Right.
What's required? Self-actualization requires believing in yourself. And the way you believe in yourself is you find your gift, you develop it, and you find ways to apply it that will help others. And so it makes you successful by making other people successful. And you start to believe in yourself and self-actualize. And then it comes to what Maslow called synergy.
Right.
And that to self-actualize, you have synergy in your life. And what that means is the selfish and unselfish merge, because you are trying to succeed by helping others, creating value for others. So that's unselfish.
Right.
But that benefits you. So which is selfish and which is unselfish? It all runs together. And that's why at 85 am I so passionate and working?
I love it.
Every day I wake up, okay, how do I contribute today? What can I do? How can we apply these principles better? How can we help people more? Wow. And then I see somebody who's learned these and they're transformed and they're pumped up and they're self-actualizing. Wow. Then okay, I got to find more ways to do this.
Right. This is your passion.
This is the most fun I've ever had.
What time do you wake up in the morning, by the way? Like, what do you do? What's your daily routine? I want to know what you do. I want to be like you.
Oh, no, you don't.
I do.
Too many hard knocks, too many schools of hard knocks to beat this in my thick head. But no, I get up by 6. If I wake up at 5:30, I get up, let's say 5:30 to 6. And then I get to the office by 7. And
you still go, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So do you still go to the office every day?
Well, every day during the week.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't mean on Saturday and Sunday.
I work on Saturday and Sundays too, because that's more fun than anything else.
God bless you. Okay, I love it.
I'm not kidding. I drive them nuts with voicemails and stuff all time of day or night. But anyway, so
good for you.
Then I come to the office and come there early before most people do and get caught up on my paperwork, what came overnight, and get organized, and then start driving people nuts. Ideas and stuff, and it's just one fun thing after another. But all our people here at Koch Industries, and we're in my office, by the way.
Is that your office that you're sitting in?
Yeah.
So of all those books, what is your favorite book that you have over there?
Well, it's probably the one, or one of the ones. I mean, I have a bunch of favorite ones, but one of the ones that helped me the most is what Maslow called Eutychian management, and I won't define that. Now it's been reprinted. When I first read that, Maslow was dead and it was out of print. And so I contacted his widow and got the rights to reprint thousands of copies to distribute to all of our employees back then. We have many more employees now, so that would be a big job today. And
wow.
And a lot of these concepts I talk about, self-actualization, synergy, all of this, and how to organize, how to be a social entrepreneur. A lot of this is in there. I mean,
really,
it's Maslow on management. I mean, it's the best management book. I've read a bunch of management books. Most of them aren't worth much.
right?
This is profound.
Wow. Do you have an extra one that I can look at, perhaps? Or
Yeah,
We'll send you a copy.
will you send me one? Will you? Do you promise? Can
Yeah.
I hold you to that?
yeah. No, it is true. And I've read now all of Maslow's books, and then another. Is in my book, as you saw, I was asked to write in the conclusion who's most influenced me, and I said, well, two people in real life, and then two authors, and those are Maslow and Hayek would be the most, and then what role models, and they would be Frederick Douglass and Viktor Frankl.
Right.
And we can, if anybody's interested, we can talk about it. But anyway, with Hayek, it's his, what he said was probably the greatest discovery of mankind. And that is that the discovery that people can live together in peace and to their mutual advantage if they are only limited by abstract rules of conduct. And to me, those rules of conduct, which are my North Star, is a system of equal rights and mutual benefit, where people succeed by assisting one another, and everyone has the ability to realize their potential. So everything I work for is in that. You can see those are kind of the 50,000 foot version of what we're trying to do with individuals. So you combine, Maslow won the Nobel Prize for economics, but he was a philosopher as well. And Maslow was a psychologist, but he was a philosopher as well.
Right.
And this is what I learned when I started studying these. It doesn't matter what discipline, they're interrelated.
Yes.
That one discipline, and we find one that doesn't, and it's jarring against the others. Well, you got to be a little suspicious of that one.
Yeah, I love that. I think I totally understand and I agree. But let's talk about that. I mean, you mentioned it. You talk about in the book, Viktor Frankl and Frederick Douglass. Those are. Would you say those are your role models? You said who are who are here today.
No,
They're not living right now. I mean, I was going to say those are the ones from a long time ago.
Yeah, but because they overcame the most.
They did. Talk about them. I think they're both great examples, actually, in your book. Yeah,
they had the greatest hardship. I mean, let's just take Frederick Douglass. He was born into slavery,
mm-hmm.
and he overcame that and became not to go get vengeance of all the people who tormented him,
mm-hmm.
and it created all this injustice, but to eliminate injustice for everybody. And what's great, in his autobiography, he gives the aha moments that caused him to be a social entrepreneur. So if I could just take a couple of minutes and describe those, I think,
yes.
I mean, that's been very helpful to me. Okay, when he was 8, he was a house slave.
Yeah,
and so he saw the mistress of the house teaching her kids to read, and he found out in that, I won't go through detail, but he found out that he wasn't a slave because he was inferior, which is what he'd been told, but because he was being kept ignorant.
Right.
So he, on his own, entrepreneurially, at age 8, found ways to teach himself to read. And then the next real highlight moment was when he was 16, and he got the opportunity to teach Sunday school. And he secretly, which was illegal, was teaching the other slaves to read. And here's what he said. Here he was a slave, mistreated, horribly treated. He said, at last, I found a way to contribute. Just think of that.
Yeah.
When you're in this condition and you're teaching us, and then he was punished and beaten and tried to destroy his will. And he beat up this slave breaker he was assigned to. And then he said, at last, I'm a man.
Yeah.
This is, believe me, this is all believe in yourself.
100%.
Contribution motivate. So he says, I'm going to escape. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. Okay, then he escaped and he found ways to support himself. So he says, I'm not only a free man, I'm a free working man. Mm-hmm. Once again, I can contribute. Then he started going to abolitionist rallies. And Garrison and all the top abolitionists were speaking. And they saw him there, a former slave. So they called on him to speak. And he was the best speaker of them all. So he found his gift. And he became very successful. He became the most photographed person in America, associated with presidents.
No, I love that. He's like a real social entrepreneur. And I feel like also that Victor, the first one that in your book was Viktor Frankl, who was in the Holocaust.
In death camps. And he dedicated himself. Everyone was starving and assigned. Most of them, many of them they would turn in others to get extra food left. He dedicated himself to helping the others. He was a psychiatrist, to counseling them, and he'd give them part of his food. If their shoes were worn out, he'd give them his shoes. And he said, the reason I survived, I had meaning. I had a purpose. The others were just trying to survive as long as they could. And who wants to survive in that? And so his saying that I quote all the time is ever more people have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. So that's what we all need. That's what Frederick Douglass found. That's what Viktor Frankl, and that's what I've got to do every day. I've got to find meaning. I've got to contribute, or I don't feel good about myself. And that's the most important person you've got to please. Everybody wants to please the crowds and stuff. Phooey. Please yourself. And the way you please yourself is use your capacities to contribute.
I love that. It's the key to longevity. I mean, listen to you. You know, you're 85 years old and you're sharper and more with it than like people literally like 20 years old. I mean, you're a great role model, I feel, for a lot of different people because you keep yourself, you have purpose behind what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, can because we've been talking about these two guys who are social entrepreneurs and stand together. Just so people understand, what is the definition of a social entrepreneur if people don't know what it is, and why they make such an impact on different things. Like you talk about how people like that, the best people to actually make a change are these people because they're like living in that space. So
yeah,
we look at social entrepreneurs as people where others can only see the problem or the barrier that's holding people back. A social entrepreneur can see a solution that empowers people to overcome that barrier. And when you hear stories like Viktor Frankl or Frederick Douglass, who have overcome literally the most difficult barriers that anyone can imagine, it seems like, well, that's a really hard thing to be a social entrepreneur. But the point we try to make in the book is there's actually a social entrepreneur in all of us. And so the opportunity is to really find your passion and apply your passion to help empower others. And what we find in our work and what we talk about in the book is, the social entrepreneurs are often found in the most unlikely places. So a guy like Scott Strode, for instance, who's just one of my favorite people as well, somebody we've worked with now for 4 years or so. And Scott's a fitness guy. And so, but Scott runs a group called the Phoenix, which is one of the most effective addiction recovery programs in the country. It's about twice as effective as some of the best clinical programs. But Scott's a guy that most people wouldn't have invested in to start a recovery program, because Scott himself is a former addict, right? For 10 years, he struggled with addiction. But that's why we invest in him, because he's closest to the problem. He understands what it means to struggle. And because he has that knowledge, he's able to come alongside others who are struggling and empower them to improve their lives. He does it through physical fitness. He does it by creating a sense of community and helping people to discover that, hey, I didn't think I could do anything, but I can do a few push-ups, and then I can do a few pull-ups, and then I can get on the bike and and ride around the mountain, up in Colorado where he started things out. And there are thousands of those people that we work with, which is amazing. But the story about Scott, to me, what's important to people who are kind of looking for this meaning, this purpose, is Scott started with what he knew best. And then he said, how can I use what I know best to help other people to do more than they could on their own? And that's really how you start on that path to social entrepreneurship.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. I was just saying, he was just speaking my language, talking about a push-up and a pull-up and, just like how you start people. Go ahead. No, you please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and that's what we intend the book to be, a guide to help people from all walks of life transform their lives. And then if that really works, then help others do the same. And then you'll be a social entrepreneur. And then you'll feel really good about yourself, and you'll have a great life, and you'll live a long time and be as happy as you can be.
I mean, listen, if I want to live like you, I'm telling you, I wasn't just saying that. I also love the story in the book about the guy who was a gang member. And when someone told him that story about, like, you have such leadership skills and people are looking at you to do bad all the time, why don't you reverse it and, try to do good? And that was like his aha moment. And now he's working with all these, the guy who was, I think he was the guy who was like
Anton Lucky. Yeah,
absolutely.
Anton's phenomenal. Yeah.
And let me tell you a story about Anton. After we've been working with him a few years, we teach our management philosophy based on these principles of human progress. We offer it to all the social entrepreneurs, and they can use it to whatever extent they want. And so Anton said, well, we were exposed to this, and we said, God, they were skeptical. And they said, well, we run ours like a gang, because they call themselves OGs, original gangsters.
Yes.
I mean,
so to hear you say that.
They know how to deal with gangs and how to deal with kids that want to go in gangs, because they've lived it.
Yes.
That's what Brian was talking about. So I was visiting with him one time, and I said, well, tell me, how's it going? And he said, this stuff works. He said, this is great. And he went through point by point how they changed their hiring, how they changed organizing, how they changed their reward people, how they train people. Everything was changed along this. And it went in detail. And it wasn't just eyewash just to impress me. I mean, there were specifics. And I said, Anton, you've learned our management philosophy, market-based management, quicker than any executive of any company we've ever acquired.
Really?
Bottom up. People, we'll discount you. You're just an ex-gang member. You're an ex-prisoner. Believe me, everybody has a gift. And he has tremendous gift and capacity, which has been overlooked. And that's why he went down the wrong path. And that's what we want, a society that enables everybody to find and practice their gift.
You also, I agree with you. You are also, I think someone you were in your book, or I think it was your book, that someone asked you, like, you're not hiring the Harvards of the world or the Yales of the world, why, like, how can you find good people even, in Wichita, and I guess to your point, as like with Anton, like, you find that the people who usually maybe who haven't had the, who aren't the Ivy Leaguers, who have had it to be, have had a life to be a certain way, or a charmed life, usually are the ones who are the shining star, or the gem, or like the diamond in the rough, who actually are the ones who are the hardest workers, who have the most to do, the most to say. I mean, you know more than I do. I mean, I'm sure people ask you that all the time, right? Like, are you hiring from Yale? Are you going to this?
Well, I mean, we will, but what we look for are not credentials. We don't care anything about that. We look for, well, we have 8 guiding principles, which we describe in the book, but they boil down to 2 things to make it simple, which we look for. And the first is to be contribution motivated rather than negatively motivated. And the second is to have some gift or some talent that will enable us to create value for all the people we need to create value for, including fellow employees. And when we find people with those 2 things, whether they went to college, went to high school, doesn't make any difference. If they have those and we get them in the right role, the improvements are marvelous. And since we're doing a lot better job of that now, boy, when I go to a business meeting, I hear all the improvements, and from people in the first line who didn't go to college. And so it confirms it. And just another thing that confirms it, after I stepped down as president and just became the chairman, my successor, who was terrific, Sterling Varner, who I wrote about in the book, never graduated from college. And our current president went to Emporia State. Now, that's right up there with Harvard, I recognize, but it is to me.
To you it is, yes,
it
of
is,
course.
because he is terrific.
So you've mentioned contribution motivated. What is that? Can you tell people what that means?
That's a concept from Maslow. People who want to succeed by contributing. They want a job where they can contribute, where they can help others, that's challenging, that causes them to learn and develop and self-actualize. And what you see is what Maslow called deficiency motivated is what you see. Oh, I mean, like Frederick Douglass could have been deficient. I'm just a slave. I'm going to kill somebody or something. I'm out now. I'm no longer a slave. I'm going to organize a group to go kill all these people or hurt them.
Right.
When he didn't have that attitude, he was contribution motivated. That's what makes you a great social entrepreneur. And that's what makes you successful in business. And so if I tell our people who are recruiting, I say, okay, if you want to hire somebody who's deficiency motivated or negatively motivated, like wants to play politics or cover up, deny they ever made a mistake and pretend everything's perfect when they got a disaster. We see that everywhere. I said, if you want to hire somebody like that, hire them really slow and inept.
Right.
So then we can get them out of here before they ruin us. Because we've hired a lot of people who were really talented and weren't really contribution motivated. We made a mistake, and they've been our biggest disasters in our history. Our biggest failures are from those people.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I mean, so how do you do it though? Like, what is there, like a test that you give people when they first start? Like, is there like a psychology test, or how do people even begin the process?
Well,
what if for example, if I wanted to work for your company, which, I'm just giving an example, what would be the process?
Okay, we'd bring you in for an interview. Okay, what are your interests? What are your aptitudes? Tell us about your successes and your mistakes. And if you start off, well, I haven't had any made mistakes.
Yes.
but the people I work with were my bosses. They didn't let me do anything, and they ruined everything I did. And
Right.
so it wasn't my fault. No, sorry. We hope you
Right.
go to work for our competitor.
Exactly. No, exactly.
So, but the key here, once again, is to find people to do the interview who have this gift for interviewing. Like my wife has that. When we meet somebody, she can spot problems with them much faster than I can.
That's exactly.
And this is, because I have this narrow capability, I find partners, and so that was my wife.
Yeah.
We share vision and values and have complementary capabilities. I'm good at this narrow range. She's good at everything else. And we've been together 51 years, and I can't tell you how much she's helped me. She's changed my life. She's transformed me. When I wrote about her in the book, her and Sterling Varner are the two people who individually have helped me the most.
Does she interview for you sometimes still, or do you bring her into? No,
but she has a lot of opinions on people we work with. Yeah,
I'm sure she does. I think your wife and I will get along just fine. I'm sure. Do you ever watch television? Do you have time to watch TV or what do you do besides go to work at 7:00, wake up at 6? What do you exercise? What do you eat? I want to know what you do, what your schedule is every day.
I eat 3 meals a day, but I limit what I eat, so I
do you
don't
snack.
No, I don't snack.
Okay.
So I don't gain weight, but I try to eat a balanced diet, and I try to work out an hour and a half a day.
Good for you. Wow.
I mean, when you get to be my age, if you don't, boy, you go down in a hurry.
Wow. An hour and a half. So what do you do? What's your workout regimen?
Well, I start with 30 minutes on the elliptical. I do intervals on it.
Good for
so
you.
I can keep my strength up.
Yep.
And then I do some mat exercise, core exercise, mat Pilates, and then I do 30 minutes of weights, alternating days, upper body and lower body.
Do you have a trainer? I hope you must have a trainer. I mean,
well, I do. I do when I go to the desert, but here in Wichita, I don't. We have a little gym in our basement that I go.
A little gym.
Well, it's not a commercial gym.
I'm just teasing you. So you actually work out an hour and a half every day. Do you take one day off? Do you maybe just take a day to just chill and not work out, or it's 7 days a week you work out?
Well, I try to do 7 days a week, and I don't always make an hour and a half. Sometimes if I'm pushed, it's only an hour.
Oh, excuse me. Okay. And then is that in the morning before you go to the office?
I work out. I leave work a little early and go work out before dinner, and then have dinner. And if my wife's out of town, then we FaceTime at dinner and FaceTime with my kids and grandkids, and then come after dinner, and then I work some more after dinner. But when I watch TV is when I'm working out.
What's your favorite show?
Oh, of all time?
Yeah, of all time.
Yeah, probably Lonesome Dove.
Oh, okay. I don't know that one. How about one that's current that I would know or anybody else would know?
That's about 30 years ago, I think. So
I don't know that show.
No, let me see. What would be my favorite show?
You do a lot of documentaries, don't you?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, there was a documentary by Neil Ferguson on what was it on connections.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And showing how bad news spreads faster than good news.
Yes.
And
true.
I mean, it's very similar to our one of our principles from Polanyi, philosopher of science, called Republic of Science. And it's what Newton said: if I see further, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. So what you need is build a network, and if you want people to help you, you need have these nodes. that is, they have a circle of influence, and you get them to understand what you do and trust you, and then they will influence their circle. And
Right.
that's it. But unfortunately, bad rumors and stuff about you spread much faster. And he explained that in these documentaries, these series about why that's so, and all these bad rumors, and so the hate spreads faster than and that's why people don't work with each other enough.
Yeah.
They hear these bad things and they believe it, because
Yeah.
that's why the news reported, because people love to hear bad news and trouble a lot more than they do good news. So we went through all of that.
What's it called? I want to look. I want to see if I can find that.
I think it's called Network, but I could be
Network,
wrong about that.
yeah.
It's Niall
Network.
Yeah.
Niall Ferguson.
I'm going to look at that. And then, so you don't watch like Billions or anything like that?
No,
Billions
I lost interest. I tried that, but I like True Detective. I like that.
You like that one? Have you watched Succession?
No, I started. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I wasn't so crazy about that. I thought it would be better, and it wasn't. And then I'm trying to think of one other thing that we didn't touch upon, and that I wanted to ask you about, because you talk about it. You talked about how one of your big principles is the second law of thermodynamics.
Thermodynamics, yeah.
Do you mind just to talk about? I know we got to wrap it up, but we didn't. Do you mind just talking about that a little bit before you run off?
No,
you talk about this all day, right?
Yeah, this is in my sweet spot.
Good.
No, I love thermodynamics. I was taking all these engineering degrees, and I was no good at practicing any of them, but I was good at the theory. And so I took all courses I could on theory and get away with it, still get my degrees.
Good.
And so I took a lot of thermodynamics, and I was really fascinated with the second law of thermodynamics, which is considered by many of the top scientists be the most important law of nature. So it's pretty important that we all have some idea what that is. And what the second law says is that in a closed system, entropy, which is uselessness, or randomness, virtually always increases. And the only way you can reverse that is with bringing in from the outside knowledge and energy. And so what I took this, and others have taken this doesn't only apply to physical processes. This applies to individuals, organizations, and societies. So look at what we've been talking about. The individuals who have accomplished something and succeed, like Newton. If I see further, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. He didn't create all this himself. He learned, and then he built on it and advanced it and improved it. I mean, it's what Einstein said. He said the best fate for any theory is a limiting case for a future theory. In other words, and that's what we teach here at Koch, whatever we're doing, no matter how well we're doing, if we're best in the world, it isn't good enough, because somebody's got to come up with a better way. And that's creative, what Schumpeter called creative destruction. These are all other principles.
I know, I love them.
And which is that there is, particularly today, there is continuing progress and transformation. So you as an individual, if you want to succeed, you have to be open. You have to build these knowledge networks and always learn. Okay, who can help me? What ideas, what sources can I have that are going to give me principles that are going to enable me to create value for others and succeed? If you're a business, you've got to do the same thing or you're going to fall behind.
Right.
And if you're a country and you close yourself off, and this isn't just theory, this is the history of the world. China at one point was the most advanced society in every way, technologically. And then they had a change in rulers, and they closed themselves off and they became one of the poorest.
Yeah.
And then they had changed again. And once again, they became among the most successful. And that's what's a little concerning about this country is we tend to close ourselves off to immigration, to trade, and we're just condemning ourselves. And
Right.
just to help a few people that aren't really advancing and competing, but we're hurting everybody else. We're lowering the whole standard and we're lowering our rate of progress, which is long-term suicide.
Yeah. No, I agree. How did you guys get connected, you and Brian, then? I know Brian and Brian stand together, but did you guys work together prior? Are you guys relatives? Like, are you a cousin of somebody?
Not
Like,
that I know of. If you figure out that we're relatives, you let me know.
Okay, I was going to say, you'd be a very lucky guy, Brian, very lucky guy.
Well, I am a lucky guy. I met Charles 21 years ago now. It's been over 20 years. And
Oh,
I
wow.
was right out of college. I went to work for an organization called the Mercatus Center that Charles founded.
Hold on, where'd you go to college?
University of Michigan.
Oh, okay. Okay, good college. All right.
All right, that's good. They hired me nevertheless. And,
Yeah.
I know what I was doing. I moved from Michigan to just outside of DC, and 2 weeks into the job, there was a board meeting, and I happened to be coming out of the men's room, and I looked up, and there's Charles Koch, and so I met him 2 weeks into my first job out of college. I worked with him as ran the Mercatus Center for 10 of the 14 years I was there. Sat across the board table from him. And about 7 years
shows
ago,
his ability. 3 years out of college, he transformed the whole organization.
It was a lot of fun. Great organization.
That's amazing.
But he asked me to do this about 6 or 7 years ago, and we've been working in this way together ever since.
See, and on the book, I started on this book 5 years ago, and for the first 4 years, I had all written and stuff, but I said, God, I haven't written this in a way it'd be a good guide for people to really help people. I mean,
Right.
It's abstract and a bunch of irrelevant stuff. And so I said, Brian, I give up. I said, the only way I will continue to work on this book is if you join me as co-author.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
He came in and he slapped me around and straightened me out. And so together we reorganized it and got it more focused. And now we got a good book.
It's a great book, actually.
It's a phenomenal experience. But what we did was we told the story of this work at Stand Together that, Charles has been doing in one way or another for 60 years. It's a philanthropic community. And we're supporting thousands of these incredible social entrepreneurs. We're working with hundreds of philanthropists. And the lessons right in this book are lessons that we think can benefit other people who just want to make a difference in the world. So it's a lot of fun because we got to tell stories about the work that we've done, in some cases that we hadn't thought about for a while. And these universal principles, they apply for those things that are successful. They're applying the same principles.
No, I agree with you 100%. Like, they're very applicable, and people can really partake in it, even in their own communities. I totally agree. And that's why I really did enjoy the book. Are you accepting any proteges at this time, Charles? Or do you have any? Do you have like a list? How many people ask you daily if you would mentor them?
Yeah.
Excluding me.
No, we'd be helping. We'd get you in touch and Stand Together and show you all our stuff.
No, you joke about it. Big part of what we do is education. Yeah, right. And
I know.
Trying to get people to be able to practice these principles that have made this work so successful.
No, it's fantastic. And the book is called Believe in People. And you guys have been a real pleasure. I thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've learned a lot. And like I said, I'm a big believer in your principles and how they really could turn around, not just, communities, institutional education. I really appreciate you guys being on the podcast today.
Thanks so much. We appreciate you, Jennifer. Thanks for your interest.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. And I hope I can do this. I wasn't just saying that. I hope to get a copy of that book that you said by Maslow. Yeah. Right. And I hope to have an in-person interview when we're allowed and able. Is that a deal?
For sure.
That'd be a deal.
Perfect.
Great. We appreciate it.
Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit Nest.